He laughed at my tears. My new boss actually laughed when I confessed I'd spent graduation night crying alone in a cheap motel room. The cruel sound of Richardson's mockery echoed through the conference room as my colleagues averted their eyes. 24 hours earlier, I'd sat on that stained motel bed clutching my diploma, the last remaining Anderson facing a milestone alone. My graduation gown still hung on my shoulders as I drove away from campus, watching families embrace their graduates through foggy windows while rain mimicked the tears I refused to shed in public. No snapshots, no dinner reservations, no proud parents. The car accident that claimed Mom and Dad 3 years ago had left me completely alone at 19. No siblings, no grandparents, not even a distant cousin to witness my achievement. Room 118 became my graduation venue, a sparse box with water stains on the ceiling and lingering cigarette scent. Despite the no smoking sign, I placed my diploma on the laminate dresser, whispering, first in the family to graduate college. Something about the harsh fluorescent lighting finally broke my carefully constructed composure. I sank onto the rough polyester bed cover as 3 years of grief crashed over me, working double shifts at the campus coffee shop and weekend security gigs, while maintaining a full course load, sleeping for hours nightly, surviving on ramen and determination. For what? This empty celebration? The tears came not in gentle streams but in body-racking sobs that bent me double. I cried for parents who would never see this day, for crushing student loans I face alone, for a childhood ended too abruptly, and an adulthood I was unprepared to navigate. What would you say now, Dad? I choked out between sobs. Still think your boy is strong. I don't know how long I sat there, coming undone in that anonymous room. Hours perhaps, until my throat was raw and my eyes swollen, until grief, fear, and momentary triumph blended into exhaustion. Morning arrived harshly, sunlight filtering through thin curtains. My first day at Meridian Financial awaited, a position I'd fought fiercely to secure, beating out Ivy League graduates with connections I couldn't fathom. I showered, dressed in my only suit, navy blue, purchased secondhand and tailored with my last dollars, and practiced my smile in the spotted mirror. The red-rimmed eyes staring back betrayed my sleepless night. The Meridian building towered downtown, all glass and intimidation. Inside, people with established lives, families to return to, connections I could only dream about, moved purposefully through the marble lobby. By mid-afternoon, after a blur of orientation and paperwork, I met my supervisor, Mr. Richardson, square-jawed with immaculate suits and a booming voice commanding attention. His watch probably cost more than my entire 4-year education. "Welcome aboard, Anderson," he said, crushing my hand. "Ready to prove yourself? We don't hire just anyone." The subtle emphasis on anyone wasn't lost on me. I wasn't for money. My state school degree stood out among the Harvard and Yale diplomas lining the hallways. During the welcome coffee, conversation drifted to weekend activities. One colleague mentioned a wedding in the Hamptons, another camping with his kids in their mountain cabin. When Richardson's eyebrows raised expectantly toward me, exhaustion and lingering vulnerability loosened my tongue. "Actually, I spent graduation night crying alone in a motel room," I admitted, immediately regretting my honesty. "My parents passed away years ago. Milestones can be difficult without family." The silence lasted seconds before Richardson erupted in laughter. "Crying in a motel room," he snickered, looking around at the team. "Well, I guess we know who won't survive first quarter review. This isn't kindergarten, Anderson. It's finance. We eat weakness for breakfast." Uncomfortable chuckles spread as my face burned and stomach acid rose in my throat. I wanted to disappear, to rewind time and give the expected answer about celebrating with friends. What I didn't notice was the tall, silver-haired figure pausing outside our conference room, attention caught by the raucous laughter. I didn't see his eyes narrowing as he observed Richardson's mockery, or how his gaze lingered thoughtfully on my reddening face. I had no idea that Thomas Blackwood, founder and CEO of Meridian Financial, had just witnessed my humiliation, and neither Richardson nor I could possibly know what that moment would set in motion, or how completely it would transform both our lives. Richardson's laughter followed me throughout that first day. Every glance from colleagues felt like judgment, the orphan a week to handle his own graduation. I buried myself in learning systems and protocols, staying late to prove my worth through effort alone. As I waited for the elevator, Diane from HR approached me. "Anderson, Mr. Blackwood's office requested your personnel file." My stomach dropped. CEOs didn't review entry-level files. Was I being terminated before completing one day? The subway ride to my sparse studio apartment blurred with anxiety. I'd sacrificed everything for this opportunity, worked through holidays, declined rare social invitations, existed on the edge of exhaustion, all potentially undone because I'd been honest about grief. What would you do, Mom? I whispered to my empty apartment. No family photos adorn the walls. I couldn't bear the reminders. Just functional furniture, textbooks, and a small plant, my only dependent. Next morning, I arrived early, projecting nothing but competence. Then my phone rang. Anderson, this is Sandra Winters, Mr. Blackwood's executive assistant. Dotmer. Blackwood would like to see you at 9:15. My mouth went dry. May I ask what this is regarding, Mr. Blackwood will explain. 65th floor. Richardson passed my desk, noticing my agitation. Problem already, Anderson, Mr. Blackwood requested to see me, I admitted. Something flashed across his face, surprise, concern. Blackwood himself. Well, don't embarrass the department. The executive floor was another World Museum quality artwork and views that made the city look like an architect's model. Sandra, an elegant silver-haired woman, escorted me to heavy wooden doors. Thomas Blackwood stood facing the windows. Unlike the Wall Street stereotype, he dressed simply, but impeccably. When he turned, his intense gaze assessed rather than intimidated. Alexander Anderson, he said, voice unexpectedly quiet. Please sit. Do you know why I founded Meridian 30 years ago? He asked. To revolutionize investment in emerging markets. I ventured. A slight smile. That's the official version. The truth is more personal. I founded this company to prove something to my uncle, who laughed when I told him I wanted to work in finance. He studied me closely. I was orphaned at 16. My uncle made it clear I was a burden. When I expressed interest in finance, he said people like us, without connections or pedigree, don't belong. I was in the hallway yesterday. He continued. I overheard your interaction with Richardson. The floor seemed to drop beneath me. Don't apologize for honesty, Alexander. Or for grief. His eyes held mine. I heard about your parents, about the motel room. And I heard Richardson's response. Blackwood leaned forward. What made you choose finance? With your grades, you could have pursued many fields. I considered crafting an impressive answer, but opted for truth. My father was a factory worker without financial security. When I was 14, he showed me his calloused hands and said his only fear was not providing for us. I thought if I understood money, really understood it, I could ensure no family would be vulnerable like that. And then you lost them anyway, he said quietly. Yes, that's why you were crying. Not just because you were alone at graduation, but because your purpose had been fundamentally altered. His articulation of what I hadn't processed myself sent a jolt through me. Exactly. Blackwood stood. I'm launching a special project, developing financial products for underserved communities. I want you on that team. Your perspective is the qualification I need. When I returned to gather my belongings, Richardson was waiting. What was that about? He demanded. I've been reassigned to Mr. Blackwood's project team. The color drained from his face. That's impossible. You're entry-level, Mr. Blackwood said he values my perspective, I replied, a strange calmness replacing yesterday's humiliation. Look, about yesterday, just workplace banner. No hard feelings? I met his eyes directly. You laughed at my grief, Mr. Richardson. But you had no idea who was listening. My first week on the 65th floor was disorienting. From entry-level anonymity to sitting in strategic meetings with Blackwood and his inner circle, the transformation left me constantly battling imposter syndrome. The special project team consisted of only 5 people, all significantly more experienced than me. They eyed me with curiosity, but kept questions. Professional. You're here because Thomas sees something in you, explained Claire, the project director. A brilliant economist in her 50s. That's enough for us. I threw myself into the work, offering perspectives my colleagues with privileged backgrounds hadn't considered. When discussing financial literacy programs, I spoke candidly about how intimidating banking had been for my father. How he never entered a branch without tension radiating from his shoulders. Blackwood rarely spoke during these sessions, but I'd occasionally catch him nodding almost imperceptibly at my contributions. One evening, as I prepared to leave, he appeared at my workstation. Walk with me, Alexander. We took the elevator to the rooftop garden, a peaceful space overlooking the city lights emerging at dusk. How are you settling in? He asked. Honestly, I feel like I've been dropped into advanced calculus after barely passing algebra. He smiled, a rare occurrence. Yet you're contributing meaningfully. Your suggestion about mobile banking access in rural communities is exactly the fresh thinking we need. I gathered my courage. Sir, while I'm grateful, I don't understand why you've invested in me this way. Blackwood was quiet for a moment. When I was building Meridian, I had one mentor who believed in me when logic dictated he shouldn't. One person can alter a trajectory, Alexander. He gestured toward the city below. But there's another reason. Men like Richardson represent what's wrong with finance, the arrogance, the disdain for vulnerability, the endless replication of privilege. I've seen him in meetings. I ventured. His department is struggling with the Hamilton account. Indeed, the quarterly review approaches. Blackwood's expression revealed nothing, but his implication was clear. Richardson's position wasn't secure. The elevator ride to the lobby was silent. As we parted, Blackwood said, "Remember, you earn your place here. Perspective like yours can't be taught at Harvard." 3 weeks later, the news rippled through Meridian. Richardson's department was being restructured and his role redefined. His corner office would be reassigned, his team redistributed. I was reading the announcement email when my phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Meeting room 3, now." I found not just Claire, but the entire executive team, including Blackwood, gathered around projections of our community banking initiative. "Alexander, present your rural outreach findings," Claire directed. For 20 minutes, I guided them through my research, heart pounding, but voice steady. When I finished, unexpected applause followed. "This is exactly what we need to differentiate ourselves," said the marketing director. "Fresh, authentic, purpose-driven." As the meeting disbanded, I noticed Richardson outside the glass wall watching. Our eyes met briefly before he turned away, shoulders slumped. Later that afternoon, I found myself alone in the break room when Richardson entered. The tension was immediate. "Enjoying your meteoric rise, Anderson." His voice held barely controlled anger. "I'm focused on the work, sir." He stepped closer. "Don't play innocent. My department's being gutted while Blackwood parades you around like his protege." "What did you tell him about me?" "Nothing," I answered truthfully. "He was there. He heard you himself." Richardson's face contorted. "I made one joke. Now my wife's questioning if we can keep the house, if we can still afford her mother's care facility." This glimpse into his personal life caught me off guard. I'd never considered Richardson as someone with vulnerabilities, with dependents relying on him. "I didn't ask for any of this," I said quietly. "Yet you're benefiting from my downfall." His eyes glistened unexpectedly. "I've given 15 years to Meridian. 15 years of sacrificing everything else. And now," he didn't finish, just turned and left abruptly. That night, I couldn't sleep. The satisfaction I'd felt watching Richardson's fall from grace had curdled into something uncomfortable. Yes, he'd humiliated me. But was I becoming what I despised? Someone who found power in another's vulnerability. Richardson's words haunted me for days. The vengeful satisfaction I felt watching his downfall transformed into unsettling self-reflection. Our project continued gaining momentum, while rumors circulated about his imminent termination. During our morning meeting, Blackwood unexpectedly asked, "Alexander, you worked briefly under Richardson. Any insights on integrating his team members into our initiative?" All eyes turned to me. I could have easily driven another nail into Richardson's coffin, mentioned his dismissive attitude toward clients from modest backgrounds, or his resistance to innovation. Instead, I heard myself saying, his team is exceptionally detail-oriented with risk assessment. That perspective could be valuable here. Blackwood studied me with that penetrating gaze. "Interesting. Not the perspective I expected given your history." "Professional assessment shouldn't be clouded by personal experiences," I replied, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. After the meeting, Claire pulled me aside. "Bold move advocating for Richardson's team. The man made you a punchline your first day." "I'm not advocating for him," I clarified, just acknowledging his team's strengths. Still, she smiled knowingly. "Thomas noticed. He tests people in unexpected ways." That afternoon, I found a handwritten note on my desk requesting my presence at Blackwood's office at 6 p.m. The entire floor had emptied by the time I knocked on his door. "Come in, Alexander," he called. "Drink?" He gestured to a crystal decanter. "No thank you, sir." He poured himself to fingers of amber liquid. "Tell me something. What do you think about Richardson's situation?" The question felt like walking into a minefield. "I think circumstances can reveal character, both in rising and falling." Blackwood's eyebrows raised slightly. "Diplomatic. But I asked what you think. Not for a fortune cookie platitude." I took a deep breath. "Honestly, I think there's satisfaction in seeing someone face consequences for cruelty. But I'm uncomfortable celebrating someone losing their livelihood, especially when others depend on them. Even when that person showed such compassion." "Maybe especially then," I said quietly. "I don't want to become what I resent." Blackwood swirled his drink thoughtfully. "The board wants to terminate Richardson next week." My stomach tightened. Despite everything, The finality felt wrong. You have influence with them, I ventured. I do. Are you suggesting I use it on his behalf? The man who mocked your orphan tears. The blunt description made me flinch. Not on his behalf. On behalf of what Meridian could represent. Opportunity for growth, not just punishment for failure. Blackwood set his glass down, expression unreadable. You continue to surprise me, Alexander. I'll consider your perspective. The next morning brought another surprise, and a mail announced Richardson's transfer to lead international compliance, a lateral move that preserved his employment while removing him from power positions at headquarters. He would relocate to our Singapore office. By mid-afternoon, whispers spread that I'd somehow orchestrated this reprieve. When I entered the break room, conversations abruptly ceased. I was gathering my things that evening when Claire appeared at my desk. Richardson's in Blackwood's office. Things got heated. Security's on standby. Concern propelled me toward the executive suite before I could reconsider. Through the glass partition, I saw Richardson gesturing angrily while Blackwood remained seated and passive. This is about the boy, isn't it? Richardson's voice carried as the door opened. Anderson got under your skin with his sob story, and now I'm exiled to Singapore. Your transfer reflects your skills and company needs. Blackwood replied coolly, though your reaction reinforces concerns about your emotional judgment. My judgment? Richardson's laugh was bitter. I built my division from nothing. I survived 3 market crashes while delivering results. Then this orphan cries in your office, and suddenly, he stopped abruptly, noticing me in the doorway. The naked hatred in his eyes knocked the breath from my lungs. Perfect timing, he spat. Come to witness the execution. That's enough, Blackwood stood. You're dangerously close to ensuring your severance package instead of transfer, Richardson. Something broke in Richardson's expression. You have no idea what it's like feeling everything slipping away. Everything you've built. Your reputation. I know exactly how that feels. I interrupted softly, surprising all of us. That's what I was experiencing in that motel room. Everything changing. No foundation beneath you. Richardson stared at me, momentarily speechless. We're not so different, I continued. Just at different points on the same wheel. A heavy silence filled Blackwood's office. Richardson's face cycled through emotions, anger, confusion, and finally, a reluctant flicker of recognition. This meeting is concluded, Blackwood stated firmly. Richardson, you have until Friday to accept the Singapore position. Richardson gathered his dignity, straightening his tie before looking directly at me. Enlighten me, Anderson. If we're on the same wheel, as you put it, what exactly do you see in my future? I don't know your future, I admitted, but I recognize your present. The fear, the vertigo of losing your place in the world, the question of who you are if not defined by your position. His jaw tightened. Spare me your amateur psychology. 3 months ago, I stood in a motel room questioning everything about my path forward. I continued quietly. You laughed because vulnerability frightened you. Maybe because you recognized it too well. Blackwood watched our exchange with calculating eyes, making no move to intervene. You know nothing about me, Richardson whispered, but the venom had drained from his voice. I know you have a wife, a mother-in-law in care. People who depend on your stability. I took a risk, just as I know fear drives cruelty more often than strength does. For a moment, I glimpsed the man beneath the armor, exhausted, terrified of failing those who depended on him, defined by a role that was slipping away. Singapore isn't exile, I said. It's a chance to rebuild on your own terms, away from the shadow of what happened here. Richardson's shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly. Without another word, he turned and left, the fight visibly gone from his stance. When the door closed, Blackwood studied me with new intensity. That was unexpected. For me too, I admitted. He doesn't deserve your compassion. I considered this. Maybe not, but I needed to offer it, for myself as much as for him. Blackwood nodded slowly. I was testing you, Alexander. I wanted to see if power would change you, if vengeance would seduce you. A rare smile crossed his face. You passed a test I failed decades ago. 2 weeks later, Richardson departed for Singapore. The morning of his flight, I found an envelope on my desk containing only a business card with his new contact information and a handwritten note. Wheels turn. Remember that when you're at the top. 6 months passed. Our community banking initiative launched to acclaim, featuring innovations directly shaped by my experiences. I now led my own small team, with an office that would have seemed impossible on that tear-stained graduation night. Blackwood continued his unexpected mentorship, though our interactions changed. He began treating me less as a project and more as a trusted advisor. You've brought something back to Meridian that I'd forgotten, he told me during one of our rooftop conversations. The purpose beyond profit. On the anniversary of my parents' death, I requested my first day off since joining Meridian. Instead of spending it alone as in previous years, I drove to their gravesite with fresh flowers and news of my life. I think you'd be proud, I told the quiet stones. Not of the title or the salary, but of the man I'm becoming. My phone buzzed. An email from Singapore. Richardson's team had identified regulatory approaches that would help our community banking initiative expand internationally. His note was brief but significant. Anderson, your perspective proved valuable. Perhaps one day, mine might return the favor. That evening, I checked into room 118 at the roadside motel where I'd broken down a year before. The same water stains marked the ceiling, the same faded curtains hung limply. But I was not the same. I placed my new business card on the dresser where my diploma had rested. Prospective director, a title Blackwood had created specifically for me. No tears came this time. Instead, a profound understanding settled in my chest. Our lowest moments don't define us. How we rise from them, and how we respond to others and theirs, reveals our true character. As I left the motel the next morning, the morning clerk smiled. Business or pleasure trip, neither, I replied, just remembering something important. Driving back toward the gleaming towers of the financial district, I thought about Richardson in Singapore, Blackwood in his corner office, and my parents watching from wherever they were now. We are all, at different times, broken and rebuilt by life's unexpected turns. My boss had laughed at my vulnerability, never imagining it would become my greatest strength. He had no idea that in exposing my wound to ridicule, he was revealing his own deeper brokenness, or that in that moment of cruelty, he was setting in motion his own redemption through my compassion. Some lessons arrive in tears shed alone in anonymous rooms. Others come through the humanity we choose to extend when vengeance seems sweeter. Both transform us, if we let them. If you found meaning in my story, I'd be grateful if you'd like this video. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Every story shared is another chance for us to recognize ourselves in each other's journey.